So if you're a fan of World of Warcraft, or Warcraft in general I guess, not even the World of, if you even played the strategy games, you will be aware of the Goblins and their specific style that they have in this universe. Now when I found these miniatures from, I think it's called The Lost Adventurers, I'll put a link to their STL store down in the description, I looked at them and I was like, they look exactly like the guys from Stranglethorn Vale or Ratchet or what have you, and I just couldn't help myself but to paint them up in that style. So that is the long and short of my plan. There are a number of sculpts in this, but we're going to be focusing on this guy. A number of sculpts in this set, but they're all very similar. We're going to focus on this guy because he's got a combination of everything, so the hair, the armor, and what have you. And yeah, I think we're just gonna go for it and see what we can do in the time that we have. I'm currently painting miniatures up for the Lost Mines of Phandelver for my D&D group. So yeah, there's got some goblins in it. I needed some goblin miniatures. I paid for them. This isn't a sponsored thing or anything like that, but let's dive in with the painting. So the first paint I'm going to use is Candras Green. I'm going to give it a really good shake before we start. And again, I don't have any sort of idea of process or guide. I mean, I've got a rough idea in my head, but this is very much the test model. So let's see what it looks like. I'm going to use a slightly larger brush than normal because we're going to do every single piece of the skin with this guy. And it doesn't matter if we bleed over any other areas because I imagine I will use layer paints to block in the rest. So we're just going to go around and block in every single area, if I can get it on camera for you, that will be skin tone. So all areas of that one leg, and I do it in sections as well. I've got some on his hand, so I'm going to do his hand now. And I really like the simple swords on these guys. It is just one piece of metal, like a cleaver, like a primitive weapon, which is not accurate for a World of Warcraft goblin. They're usually quite inventive, but is very accurate for D&D, the scrappy nature of them. We don't want it to pull too much with the contrast paints. It's very much like a wash. We want to get it on in one smooth coat, not one thick coat. So just like you would do with a wash, if you see it pooling, just move it around and you should be golden. Make sure we get in between all of the individual little toes there. Doesn't matter if we go over his foot wraps, because again we'll be touching those in a different colour. And you can already see the striking greenness of this. I know it's not dried, so it's going to dry a little bit duller than it is bright here. But again, it really doesn't matter if you're messy at this stage, because this is the skin tone. Everything that we paint is going to be over the top of this, which is a bonus. There we go. I think we've got everything there. No, there's a bit under his arm. I always like to double check, make sure I've got all the bits by just tilting the model around and having a look, because there's nothing more frustrating than having to go back with a messy contrast paint and attempt to have anywhere near reasonable brush control. So you're almost much better to slather it on, and by slather I mean, without really having any regard for anything that's around it, like that cheekbone there, or just behind that ear there. And yeah, you'll get some green around some areas where you don't want it, but again, you're going to be covering that up with a layer paint, so not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, in some areas it's already dry, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this guy aside, let him dry, and I'll do the other 10 or so that I've got off camera, and we'll pick this guy up and we'll continue on. And once your goblin is all dried, you'll have something that looks a bit like this. And yeah, I think that contrast paint does its job okay. It's quite vibrant, it's quite bright. It's going to be interesting to see what the entire model's like after we've got a wash on it. And for the next step, I think we're going to crack on with all of the armour. He's got like this scale mail armour, and most of the goblins in this pack have the same, so I'm going to use the old tried and trusted lead belcher. I think I'm going to do his braces in lead belcher as well. So let's crack that open. I'm going to get down to a smaller brush. I've got a Citadel medium Artificer layer brush here. I'm going to put a little bit of lead belcher on my palette. And obviously, I should have mentioned, we're going to do the sword as well. So this is the time where you want to start working on your brush control and being a bit neat, because we don't want to get any on the area that's going to remain green. So we crack on like so with his armour, you'll see the effect that we are going for, and we're going to do this bit as well. Not the cloth area around the neck, we'll pick another colour for that, and we'll probably have to decide on some kind of accent colour. I already know the hair is going to be purple, I just haven't decided which purple. But yeah, I'm going to go and touch in all of the silver areas on all of the models, and we'll come back and we'll see what he looks like. And there we have all of our lead belcher sections finished. So we've done his scale mail, his sword, and the front side of his little braces are there. It is still drying a little bit. So yeah, let's crack on with the next stage. And the next stage is going to be, I've picked out Storm Vermin Fur. Now what I'm thinking, oh look at that, it's a brand new pot. I've not used this paint before. I thought it might be an interesting colour. I'll just get some on my brush there, to do all the straps and stuff. So I'm thinking specifically the foot wraps here. And in my mind, these raggedy cloths that the goblins would be wrapping their feet in and attaching to their braces and using for their belt would typically be all the same colour. I don't know if you agree with that. Maybe it makes more sense that it would be a patchwork of colours, but for ease of painting, I think I'm just going to use the Storm Vermin Fur. So I'm just going to go around and very, very carefully touch in the Storm Vermin Fur. I'm going to do this little shawl, coif type thing around here as well, and we'll come back and see what this guy looks like once that is all blocked in. Right, that Storm Vermin Fur layer is all done, and yeah, all the block colours are starting to come in nicely. There's two more steps that we need to crack on with that I can see, which is we just need to pick out the white of the teeth. I think that will add a little bit of visual interest to the face of the model, and then the purple for the hair, which we are going to crack on with right now. So for the hair, we're going to use Majos Purple. Give it a little bit of a shake. Have our miniature, who I think, I mean, it's difficult to say whether he's going to look good or not, because it all comes together in the wash stage for me, because I'm very much a speed painter. But let's just, as carefully as we can, up to the edges, get that Majos Purple on his hair. There we are. I'm just going to fine tune that as carefully as I can. I may have to do the rest of it without a camera in the way. Oh, can I do it? Can I do it? Yeah, I think we've got it. I think we're good. So yeah, while that's drying, I just realised most of that wasn't on camera. That might need a second coat because it's already quite light, quite translucent, the old Majos Purple. So whilst that's drying, I'm just gonna grab an off-white, and I've gone for Pallid Witch Flesh. I'm just gonna get the smallest amount on my brush, work it into the bristles, really wipe off a lot of the excess, I just want to very, very carefully, maybe even with the side of the brush, just pick out the teeth, like so. Maybe that entire bottom jawline there. Yeah, and I think, you know, when that's at tabletop level, that may look interesting. Right, I'm going to let that all dry, maybe give the top knot a second coat, and we'll come back and see what he looks like. Actually, I'm completely lying to you because we're speed painters and we want to be efficient. Whilst that is drying, we could be popping on our Sterling mud. So I've got the Sterling Mud Citadel texture paint here, I've got an old brush, and what I'm going to do is just very carefully, the way I like to do it is to just scoop up a little bit with an old brush and then just work it around a little bit at a time, and that way it ensures that you get a bit of texture on every dollop, so to speak. So you can be a little bit more careful around the toes. You get it on the rim, just wipe it off with your finger. There we are. And yeah, I'm just going to go around the entire model, being careful not to spill it up the sides of the model, you know, working it towards the feet rather than putting it near the feet, like so. Yeah, we'll go and do the entire model. We'll come back, wait for this to dry, which will take about an hour, in which time I will be able to do my second coat of Majos Purple on the hair. We'll see what he looks like and then go from there. And as promised, I put a second coat of Majos Purple on the hair there, and I just popped a little bit of Sterling Mud on the base, let it all dry, and now we're down to the final step. So the final step for us is going to be using Agrax Earthshade. I've already given it a pretty decent shake. I'm going to switch back to my medium shade brush, and I'm going to cover the entire miniature, including the base, because the plan is going to be to pop some little bits of static grass on here and tie it into my D&D Lost Mines of Phandelver type theme. So just get it on all of the models, make sure it's not pooling too much in one place. Do the entire thing, and we'll come back and see what he looks like once he's dried and finish. And here we have the finished model. I think you'll agree, for a quick speed paint for some D&D Goblins, it's turned out pretty well. I really like the oversized proportions of these sculpts. Again, the link is down in the description, and if I have any sense, you're currently watching a little revolving time-lapsey thing of all of the models, so you can check out what they look like as a little horde. But yes, I've enjoyed painting these guys. They've been therapeutic, broken up a day. Yeah, it's nice to get back on the painting table. If you'd like to see any more videos like this, please do comment down below. I'm currently about to run the Lost Mines of Phandelver, so there's a number of things that are on my painting bench that need painting. Hobgoblins and a couple of human NPCs and bits and pieces, and I need to paint a tavern as well. So yeah, that's all gonna be happening anyway, but anything else, please do let me know. Popping up on your screens now will be some other videos I hope you enjoyed. Please do like, comment, subscribe, do all that great stuff, and I'll see you in the next one.